because I know Matt. I know him very well, and I've watched him for years. I know his entrance. I know exactly what he's going to do. And then I put my foot on the bottom rope, and he just spilled out. It was hilarious.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome back to 10 Count. I'm Steve Fall. On today's edition, I'm talking to a very thirsty man. It's PJ Black. You might also know him as Justin Gabriel, Dr. Black himself. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I know where you are, the weather is not so nice, but hopefully in this interview we can warm you up with some nice questions instead of some freezing cold weather you're dealing with right now. One, though, involves the most famous GIF online. It's you, and it's Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy's about to go on the second rope, do his pose, and there you are. And I don't know if it's your fault or if it's Matt Hardy's fault or gravity just didn't want to deal with Matt that day, and possibly you touch that top rope and he tumbles on over. Let's go back. How in the world does this happen? Whose fault is this? This is the most hilarious GIF I keep seeing forever.
Oh, I know. And I retweet it every single time someone tweets it. It's amazing. It'll never get old. It was my first day on the job. So the first thing that ran through my head is like, I'm going to get fired. I'm going to get fired. This was the first day. And it was totally my fault. And I felt so stupid too, because I know Matt. I know him very well, and I've watched him for years. I know his entrance. I know exactly what he's going to do. And then I put my foot on the bottom rope, and he just spilled out. It was hilarious, but also frightening at the same time.
I imagine, because like you said, it's your first day on the job. So there you are with Matt Hardy, a veteran of the game. Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, Dudley Boys, so many great matches. And there you are. You're like, oh, I got Matt Hardy with me. And he does his pose, and you just touch that top rope a little bit. He's like, oh, shit. And just goes right over. It will never get old.
Never get old.
It'll never get old. And the argument I still to this day, GIF, where are you on this?
That's a good question. So the creator of it, I forget his name. He said it's GIF.
I know, I remember.
But he actually prefers GIF, so either or works. That's from the creator. So
all right. Well, we can all agree the creator was wrong with the first wording, and he agrees with the second wording, because what do you give for a present? Do you give a gift or a gift?
That's a good point. That's a good point. I like that one.
That's what I use to decipher which one is right, which one's wrong. But how did you feel about being on that first season of NXT, where pretty much it was a game show? Hey, go run around and do these funny things, but also wrestle, and then do something funny, and then wrestle. Like, can you balance both worlds?
At that time, it was cool, because we just wanted to be on TV. We were a bunch of rookies. Well, in the storyline, I've been wrestling for 10 years at that time. And I honestly didn't care what I was doing on TV. I was like, oh, cool, I'm on TV, I'm on the road. That was my goal in life, is just to wrestle full time. That game show went completely in a different direction. The original plan was for us to live in a house like the Ultimate Fighter and actually compete and do like proper actual challenges, athletic challenges. But as the wrestling business goes, time ran out, and on the day they were like, oh, let's write a show, and then they were like, oh, we don't even have time to write a show, so we kind of like freestyled pretty much everything. That's why the matches and the promos were kind of a little bit off, because it was pretty much all on the fly.
Wow. I feel like that the seasons that followed after that didn't ever really pick up what you guys were putting down, because you had the next season were wrestlers that seemed like okay, because the first season had a bunch of people, muscly clad men. They looked great in the ring. They knew what they were doing. The second season felt like they were like walking down the street and like, hey, you want to be a wrestler? And someone's like, me? And like, nothing against any of those people, but at the same time, when someone is told to describe what a mustache is and cannot do a promo about mustaches, you start wondering, I don't think this person should be here.
Totally. But the second one was also more scripted, because I think we messed it up so bad. But saying in the same breath, some good names came out of there. Look at Bray Wyatt, FKA Husky Harris.
Yeah, Husky Harris. Michael McGillicuddy. I'll never be able to wrap my brain around the fact that some people, like a Randy Orton, gets to keep his last name. Other people show up and they're like, oh, who are you? I'm Mr. Perfect's son. Okay. Your last name is now McGillicuddy.
Yeah, it was a strange phase. It goes through eras, right? It shifts through like the Attitude Era and the Reality Era. We were just in such a weird era where everyone had to have two completely different names that didn't sound like their actual names or their indie names. It was weird.
I know. How does someone who comes to you and goes, hey, you need, different name? Like, and how do you come up with your name?
So I mean, and this changes also weekly. It changes, like, you know what I mean? Now some people get to keep their names, but at that specific moment in time, they were like, "Hey, write a bunch of first names and a bunch of last names on the list. We'll pick some." I ended up being Justin Angel, which I picked myself. I really liked. Vince changed it to Gabriel on the day without telling me. So when I was being announced into the ring, I was like, "Wait a minute, I'm Justin Angel, but I guess I'm Gabriel now." So it was just like, I guess he knew Chris Angel. I mean, he gave Chris Angel his start or some, whatever the stories are. But yeah, that was at that time. I'm sure the processes are completely different now, and it depends who's in that decision-making spot. You know, Dusty's no longer making a lot of those decisions, so who knows how they come up with this stuff.
Right. For a second, were you suggesting that Chris Angel got his start with Vince McMahon in the WWE because like the magician?
Yeah. So magicians do like spots. Magic and comedy is kind of like wrestling, right? This is kind of like the same road show. We sell merch, like all kinds of stuff. So I guess this is a story I heard. I don't know how true this is. I haven't asked Vince personally about this, and I will next time I have the opportunity. But so he owned when he started like buying buildings when remember when he bought the company from his dad. So this was way back.
Yeah.
And then he started like running shows locally, and I guess he owned either owned a building or owned a lease on a building for entertainment.
Okay.
And he gave Chris the stage for a couple of nights a week or whatever to do his act.
Wow.
And the act was very successful, and the building ended up being very successful. I'm probably missing some details, but that's the skeleton of the story. Yeah.
Wow, because I know later on he would host an episode of Monday Night Raw when they were obsessed with the GM era of having celebrities host Raw, where that was the time that wrestling fans really showed their true dedication to the WWE, dealing with Cedric, the entertainer, or a NASCAR driver, or Shaq, or some people were great. Bob Barker, best host probably ever. But then the rest, Hugh Jackman knocking out Dolph Ziggler, hanging out with
there was a couple of
Zack
gems,
Ryder. Yeah, a couple of gems in the turd. So, there's always gonna be a couple of good ones, a couple of bad ones, a lot worse than they were good. But it doesn't matter. We're talking about you. I'm not talking about Bob Barker right now. Sucker punching Chavo Guerrero.
Well, I got to be there for all those shows. So for me, it was pretty cool because I got to meet all those people.
So was it nice meeting, the random NASCAR driver, or was it nice meeting Bob Barker?
I mean, the people that I knew, it was really nice meeting them. I remember when the A-Team came out, and the whole cast came onto the show, and the guy that plays Murdoch, he's actually South African. He's from Cape Town. So we had a nice little chat there. He was just astounded by my life and my lifestyle because he only comes to the US like 2-3 times a year to film a movie. He's like, "Oh, do you do that too?" I'm like, "No, I was actually on the road for 300 days last year."
Right. Yeah, in different hotels, driving from town to town. The Muppets did host at one point. I love the Muppets, and I love the WWE, and I love wrestling. So finally having both worlds collide was like a mind-blowing experience, at least for me. So when you're backstage and Kermit the Frog's kind of, not giving you autographs, how do you feel about that?
That's actually funny. I started thinking about something else when you said that, because that had a massive impact on you, and like Bob Barker had a massive impact on someone else, and there was some other stuff that we probably forgot that had a massive impact on someone else. So it kind of like makes sense. During that era, they were kind of just trying to cover all bases, trying to make everybody happy, which we know is a recipe for disaster, right? You can't make everyone happy, but like I've never actually even thought about that. But
well, I think at the time the GM thing was because the WWE was no longer the cool kid in town, and they were trying to figure out how to weasel their ways back into the world of celebrities. They figured it out now. But with Logan Paul and other people involved. But for so long, it just felt like there was like, please let us back in Hollywood. And Hollywood's like, I don't think so. We're good. We're good. Yeah. So we'll bring in and promote your book, promote your movie, promote your TV show. We'll do whatever it takes to get you on our show, please. And then eventually, I think, it's like building a house, brick by brick by brick. Eventually, they were let back into and I think wrestling in general has been let back into the minds of everybody versus before, like, oh, I used to watch that. I don't watch anymore. And now everyone watches everything now.
Yeah, and it's cool because we have guys like The Rock who crossed over, and Batista, and now Cena, and
Yep.
all these guys. So I mean that also helps. But it was going that way before that anyway. But this is I think it's kind of cool. I mean, the wrestling should be part of pop culture.
It should, especially because, you go back to the Hulk Hogan eras, the Stone Cold eras, where I would go to a gas station with my family and I'd look over and there's, Coca-Cola, there's a Doritos, and there's an NWO shirt. It was so different. Now it's not like that at all. And
Mm.
for so long, it was you could go anywhere. It didn't matter what the store sold. It would also have something wrestling. It didn't matter what it was. Like,
And
oh,
it's kind of like making a comeback, like guys
yes,
like our age. Like I really love it whenever I see a guy with an NWO shirt walking down the street. I live in LA, so it happens daily. Or a Nexus shirt, I'll give him the Too Sweet or
of
whatever.
course.
It's cool that's kind of making a comeback.
Oh yeah, it's like when you see a wrestling fan wearing a shirt in the wild, just like as I am, you always have to be like, I see you. I see
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
wild animals bumping into each other and saying hello to each other versus being like, oh, I can't. I was on a family vacation wearing an AJ Styles shirt and someone's like, oh, and we were on this boat for like a half an hour just about wrestling. My wife and my kids are like, Dad.
I mean, that happens to me all the time. I was in an arcade downtown the other day, and I was wearing a wrestling shirt. So the security guard gave me his. It was one of those arcades where you load the money on the card, and he gave me his card. He's like, "Here you go play for 2 hours," just because I was wearing a wrestling shirt. He didn't even know I was a wrestler.
Oh my God.
I was just wearing a wrestling shirt. When we left, his buddy was like, "Yo, that's a JG, Justin Gabriel, whatever." I look so different now, right? I look so completely different. But I mean, that's the goal. Once this career is over, to have people remember Dr. Black instead of Justin Gabriel.
Right. Well, you want to make your own name in society versus latch on to what someone else created for you because, you are the creator, you are the designer. So you want to keep moving forward in life, not, hey, remember when I did this? But we are going to talk about remember what you did this in a second. The Nexus, that was one of the greatest wrestling introductions, builds, runs. I don't care where you're from, what year you started watching, the Nexus will be forever remembered as a top 10, top 20 moment of holy moly, this is nuts. Now, the day of, as you're talking about NXT the first season, you're underneath the impression you're going to live in a house with these wrestlers. And you're also competing for a spot. So you're friends, but not really, because you're all competing for that one spot that Wade Barrett ended up getting. And then you all got that spot. So what was the day like starting in the morning till your debut? What are you being told? What are you not being told?
So nothing. We weren't being told anything. So we didn't really know what was going to happen. We're like, oh, is this over? Are we going to go back to Florida, go back to FCW, or what's the plan? But they flew us out to Miami, and Vince called us into the office, and he's like, okay, this is what you guys are going to do. And we all like, what? Because I mean, wrestling is always recycled, right? It's always borrowed from the past or from other storylines. I mean, there's hardly ever any new things that pop up in wrestling, right? So as he was explaining this, we were like, none of us could envision that. We were just like, oh, okay, this guy's kind of crazy, but whatever. This just sounds cool. Let's do this. We didn't really understand or realize that it's gonna turn out the way it did, and which I'm actually glad it did, because like we kind of put. I wouldn't say not much effort into it, but like like when you have a new job and you're kind of walking on eggshells, you don't want to mess up. That was the first day, so it was just like, there's no way you can mess this up. Just literally mess up the ring in the arena. I'll pay for everything. It's like, if there's a security guard, like rip your tie or whatever, like I'll pay for it. And we're like, okay, cool. So it was super fun.
Yeah, the smashing of monitors, ripping up the ring apron. I think that's what's craziest too, because we've seen, NWO or bad guys show up in like, oh, we're gonna beat up the good guy. This was beyond that. This was beyond that. This was attacking Justin Roberts, being choked with that tie that will never be erased from wrestling fans' brains as well. The, chasing off the announcers, ripping up the ring apron, showing underneath. Like, this was not just a normal, and plus it went quiet. There was no commentary like, oh my God, this is crazy, what's happening? There was none of that. It was silence of just beat down after beat down after beat down. And I think that's where really people connect with it more, because you brought it up. Recycling the same old. If you watch enough wrestling, you've seen the same stories. But when you see something new, you're like, oh, I've watched wrestling for like 20 something years, but this is completely different. So being part of this experience, obviously people as myself and others will forever ask you, what was the reception when you came backstage? Was people like, oh my God, you did exactly what I wanted you to do?
Yeah, like the first couple of days was just like, yeah, whatever, you guys did what you were told, right? And we were kind of still the new people, the new rookies, but there are some guys backstage, like some of the seamstress ladies who've been there for 30 years. And like there's some of the backstage guys have been working there for 30, 35, 40 years. And a lot of them sleep while the show is on because they're busy during the day and the day after, and
Yeah.
they travel with a circus, with a set or whatever. But when those guys, they were staying up to watch our segments, and they were like, "Wow, being here for 30 years, this is so cool. This is so new." That's when it like clicked. I was like, wow, this is really so cool, because there wasn't anything we can go back and reference to how are you going to play this out. We were just like freestyling it. So it was like, I mean, it should have been way longer. I mean, we didn't even have a WrestleMania moment. It was like a 9-month run. So that's kind of cool that you say it's going to definitely make the top 10 or top 20. Oh yeah, moments, and it wasn't even like a year run, which is insane if you think about it.
Right. Every pay-per-view and every, I guess even Raw, attacking Vince McMahon, attacking The Rock, attacking John Cena. Like there's a list of people that usually are untouchable, but you're destroying them. And every pay-per-view, usually you're like, oh, it's the main event, I can't wait. But the next would show up and kind of just disrupt the match. No one was upset. No one was like, how dare they? I am angry. It was like, oh, thank God, thank God they're here.
They were upset like in the arenas. Like that was the craziest. Like whenever we came in and the lights were out, like people started like rumbling. Look, I'm getting goosebumps. It was cool moments. It really was. Like it was so different, like being in the ring with Cena and Taker and like all those guys, there's extra atmosphere in there. So we got a lot of heat.
Yes. And then you did bring it up where, we won't get to the bad part yet. You took on John Cena in a one-on-one match. And again, this at the time, John Cena it feels like he's picking and choosing what he wants to do. And he always said in interviews he didn't do that. I don't buy that. I buy Vince McMahon. Hey, John, what do you think about this? John could easily go, nah, I don't want to do that. And they're okay, let's go think of something else. But someone must have suggested, hey, why don't you fight Justin Gabriel? And they're like, okay, it was a great match. Again, what's that experience like, knowing you're not fighting a wrestler, you're fighting the golden goose of the WWE at the time?
Oh yeah, and it just gave me so much more respect for him. Like he's a genius. Say what you want. I never liked him growing up as a character, but like being in the ring with him, he's a genius. He's next level. There's not many people that can hang with him. And that's the one match you saw on TV, but like we did about 20, 30 matches on live events that was never aired. So it was kind of cool that whole experience and progression, like being super nervous the first day, not knowing what to do or what to say, and then just from there, just going crazy, doing all my stuff. He's like, man, I know you can do some stuff. Just do it. At that time, no one wanted to do anything because he was John Cena.
Right. Yes.
So, I mean, but looking back, we should have done so much more.
I agree. And then you did kind of bring it up, and we're going to hit it home right now. The Nexus, great run, unstoppable forces. You head into SummerSlam that year. It's like, and at first, and if people want to erase history, because I know certain people erase history, I'm going to bring up the real history. It's Nexus, and it's actually, the team is called John Cena's All-Stars. That's what the original team is called, John Cena's All-Stars.
Was it a WWE All-Stars?
It changed. It changed like a day later because everyone was like, I don't think it's All-Stars. What's this? And
Mandela effect.
And eventually you have Edge and Jericho join the John Cena's All-Stars, and then you had other people join up, and Bret Hart and Daniel Bryan. It was like the island of misfit toys formed a tag team, a faction to take down the Nexus. And I know Edge and Jericho on podcasts have both said very loud and proud that they were pitching for the Nexus to beat the WWE All-Stars. John Cena is the one who said, I don't want to do that. Let's have my team win. And that is the beginning of the end for the Nexus. Now, what are you aware of going into this match? Are you aware that John Cena said, I don't want to lose?
I did not in the beginning of the match. If I was in Wade's position, I probably would have like stood up and said something at the time, but like I didn't know that it was going to go that way.
Because you felt like you didn't have a voice?
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like if I was in Wade's position, I would have said something, because then I would have known what was about to happen. Like, see, we were kind of like kept in the dark. We didn't know that was the finish. I mean, we just assumed that we were going over.
Right.
I mean, we're so good. Like, we were fucking the Nexus.
Yep. Yes, you were. A lot of Nexus shirts in the crowd. Awesome theme song as well. A badass group. It felt like just, I don't know, kicked in the groin that night. It really felt like it. And then from that point on, it just felt like this weird bumpy ride. Oh, we're doing well, but we're not doing well. Oh, we're doing well, we're not doing well. What are you feeling? Because in the beginning, you're obviously like, I'm just happy to be here. And then eventually you get to a point probably where you're like, okay, what has happened? Like, what did we do wrong?
It's like the momentum just stopped, So, I mean, all of us kind of like took a different route in storylines, that they broke it up and they didn't really know where they were going to go. And I don't know, maybe we were at fault there too. We should have like be more stern and be like, yo, this is the way, we got some ideas. This is the way we're going. We were kind of just waiting for orders every week from the big guy,
Yeah,
we should have gone to talk to him directly.
Usually you hear stories of wrestlers in the past, and it's usually a test. Sometimes it's a test by Vince McMahon to see if you'll stand up for yourself or not. And but at the same time, he's your boss. Well, if your boss tells you something to do, in the mindset, same for me, I have a boss, same mindset would be whatever you need.
Yeah, exactly.
But then if you push back, they might be like, oh, really? You're hard to work with. You are hard to work with. And then suddenly it's even worse off for you than what's happening to you at the point.
Exactly. And then that can go both ways. So that's always a hard decision to make, right? Because you be like, it's like a timing thing, because it's not only in wrestling, it's also in life. Like if I made that decision to take that job, it would have turned out this way, maybe this way. It's like one of those timing things that it's like you can never be wrong, but you can never be completely right.
Right. It's unfortunate what happened to the Nexus, and then eventually, again, they split off, and CM Punk somehow became the leader of the new Nexus. And when you put new in front of anything in wrestling, it usually smells like a turd. There's a history. There's a giant history of putting new in front of things. It doesn't work out usually, 99% of the time. But then you eventually left that group and formed the Core with Wade Barrett, Ezekiel Jackson, I believe Heath Slater was in the group as well. And again, the Core, I think, had potential on SmackDown as its own faction, but yet it felt like there was this like, we want to do something, but we don't know what to do. You were tag team champions, you and Heath, and then eventually Wade was IC champion, and then they broke it off. You had a WrestleMania match as the Core and lost in a ridiculous time. It felt like 10 seconds to me.
Yeah, under a minute for sure.
Under a minute. So the Nexus doesn't get a WrestleMania match, but the Core gets a WrestleMania match. And you lose in like 15, 20 seconds. It's mind-boggling to me sometimes to look at things from a perspective of an outsider versus you're in the trenches. I want to know, what are your WrestleMania? So this is great. Phil, you may have to get in a big payday, but I guess you're not getting paid by the minute, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was still cool for me because we were tag champs, and it was the first time my mom ever seen me live.
Good.
She's never been on a plane. She flew over to the US from South Africa on a 16-hour plane ride. She's like, never again, by the way. But she got to see me wrestle for the first time ever at WrestleMania for like 10 seconds.
Wow. That's cool though. See, I think that's the thing we don't know is, as a fan, I'm watching and I'm like, damn, the hell, man, why did the Core lose in so quick? But you're like, oh, well, I had a great day. My mom came down and got to watch me wrestle. You got paid WrestleMania money.
I got no stress. I didn't have to remember anything or like be scared of anything, tripping someone off the rope that I'm not supposed to trip over. Or like, it was an easy day, easy day.
I imagine Matt Hardy still sends you that with a hateful shaky fist emoji of some sort.
Oh, he loves it. He loves it. It's funny.
It's true. He does. Anytime someone says it to him, he also does send a retweet to that as well. Though eventually, when that ends, and you wanted to change it up, and you become like this hybrid. It felt like this werewolf, Cape Town werewolf type of deal. Where did this inspiration come from?
Oh, so at the time, remember, I had that short spiky hair and the star earrings. I think Adam Lambert was really big at the time. What was that werewolf movie? Twilight was really big at the time.
Yeah.
So fans started calling me Cape Town Werewolf, which was kind of cool. So I kind of ran with that, but I wanted to do the Daredevil gimmick. So I combined werewolf and Daredevil. I made up the word Darewolf. Vince loved the idea. Hunter hated it at the time, but then they switched their perspectives, which was hilarious, and it kind of never went anywhere. Shot a bunch of vignettes for it. Told some really cool stuff for it, actually, and it just never went anywhere. I tried a bunch of different things, didn't go anywhere, and then eventually leading me to quit, because what you said earlier, we're artists, right? And like some guys can just take orders, that's fine, but like some of us need to express ourselves. Some of us are artists. So like I was like, okay, I'm not getting, no one's taking any of my ideas seriously, so I'm gonna leave. And then that's why I left. But years later, they used some of my ideas for other storylines. So I'm like, okay, cool. So my ideas aren't that bad. It was just a timing thing.
So who did they use your storylines for?
I mean, I forget. There's just a bunch of different people, but like stuff like the cruiserweight show. Like I came up with stuff like that.
205 Live.
205 Live.
And
Yeah,
the Cruiserweight Classic.
Right, came up with shows like that, and then also when I was FCW heavyweight champion, like I pitched a bunch of storylines. Let me sit in the crowd at least, so people can acknowledge, kind of like what they're doing with NXT now, not right? Like that, all those ideas. I was just way too early on them, I guess.
Right. They were too fresh, too new. You were scaring old people with your young, hip, cool ideas.
Or maybe I planted the seeds for years later. Who knows? So like now I'm like, yeah, the heel in me is like, I take full credit for that.
Of course. Well, hey, man, if no one's gonna give you credit, you gotta take it yourself, because if no one's gonna promote you, you gotta promote yourself. So that's life in general. Never be afraid to tell people how great you are when you know how great you are.
Right.
So,
and I was just a kid back then too, super young. I mean, look at me now. I'm like a grizzled vet. It's 25 years in this business for me now. So I feel like I'm a completely different person. Like just taking over this dude's body.
Yes, good, because at one point you're dressed as a bunny rabbit, hanging out with Adam Rose and dressing up as a bunny. How hard is it to jump off a top rope in a bunny suit?
It was kind of fun, actually. I mean, the stuff that they had planned and the stuff that I came up with that we were going to do was going to be really cool. But like, they never pulled the trigger on that stuff. And who knows? Maybe those ideas will come back now with a Bray Wyatt character, actually. What?
I was gonna say, watch suddenly there's like Rambling Rabbit, Bray Wyatt's little rabbit buddy, showing up and doing backflips and becoming a werewolf. I'm more interested in those vignettes. You said you shot some vignettes. What were the vignettes? Are you howling at a moon? Like what is the process?
So there was a Daredevil character, right? So I filmed some stuff, me doing a backflip on like a BMX, doing wheelies on a motorcycle, skydiving, base jumping, snowboarding, like just doing a bunch, surfing, like just a bunch of extreme sports.
Yeah.
And there was one scene of me like juggling 3 fireballs. So it was like 2 minutes of me just doing crazy stuff, like nearly killing myself. And I remember showing Vince the clip, and after he watched it, he looked at me, he's like, huh, I didn't know you could juggle.
Oh no! And now you're a clown.
Yeah. And I was just like, I didn't know how to respond to that. So I was like, I'm gonna get back to you tomorrow. Like I wonder, like sometimes if I can go back, I would have cut a hell of a promo on him that day. But I was just so shocked.
You can, oh my God, you can juggle? I just did a backflip of a BMX bike. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
you
can kill juggle. Myself.
You can juggle. That's pretty cool. Oh my God. That's hilarious to think, because who's paying for all that? The WWE's paying for you to get a BMX bike and go surfing, go snowboarding. Like they're paying for all this, or you're paying for it?
Well, I paid for it. I mean, those were just like hobbies I do on the side, like people that know me personally know I do all those crazy things. Like Wade Barrett says that all the time. He's like, man, you do these crazy things in the ring, but what you do outside is 10 times worse.
Who's filming them? Their crew, your friends, like relatives?
Yeah, so this was like a pitch, right? So like it was like a proof of concept, like in film where we shoot a proof of concept to show them, and then they if they like the idea, they will reshoot all that stuff properly.
Okay.
So that's why it was just like edited by me on my phone. I actually recently did another one like for this new character I'll show you, and I actually can't say too much about it, but like I've been sending it out. It's coming together nicely this time. I learned a lot from all those, I wouldn't say mistakes, experiences. I learned a lot from that and like what they want, and I kind of have a much better feel for what wrestling fans want too. Like we're talking about the stages earlier. We had like the Attitude Era, and then we had the reality era. I feel like there's these eras, and I might be wrong on this, but I feel like wrestling's kind of going into that over-the-top character era, because we have like the Marvel movies and like the DC movies. So I feel like everyone knows the game, so they just want to be entertained, like Bray Wyatt and like these over-the-top characters. Like look, the stuff that Seth Rollins is doing right now, that's super fun. So I'm gonna like take it way over the top with this character, and then that's why I kind of look like this. Wait till you see the whole thing come together. It should be pretty soon. Like I can't say too much about it right now.
So you're Uncle Howdy. You're Uncle Howdy. We've confirmed that you're Bray Wyatt's Uncle Howdy, which people still believe is Bo Dallas, but we'll have to see how that breaks down.
Funny, a week before that, this is probably not related at all, but a week before that happened, I did get a call from the head of creative WWE. I didn't answer my phone. I called him back like 3 days later, and he didn't pick up. So I wonder what it was. It's probably just coincidence. There's no way like they want me for that.
I don't know. I think you just set the internet on fire with the fact that you got a call, then 3 days later, Uncle Howdy pops up and
Yeah.
you weren't there, but maybe you're gonna be an evil bunny. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how time goes on. But again,
Yep.
after WWE, you've done so much. You worked for everybody. It feels like Lucha Underground, NWA, TNA, Ring of Honor. With Ring of Honor now kind of starting back up, has anyone reached out to you there as a process because they need stars? You're a star. Hello.
Yeah, maybe. I can't say too much about anything right now, but I've been talking to some different people, different companies. It's cool to be in this position. It's the first time in my life I've been in this position where I can negotiate because there's so much going on in wrestling right now. So it's kind of cool.
And you did bring up how we're in different eras of wrestling. I would consider this era we're living in right now like the internet era. Because YouTube, you can make a wrestling organization like this in 10 seconds if you have a little bit of money, a ring, and a camera. And a cell phone, really, and just put it out there. Suddenly, it's doing well. Like, would you agree that we're kind of in this era of every progress, MLW, Tokyo Joshi Pro, Stardom. Everyone is growing at a rapid rate. And now, obviously, you're at the head of the table, and everyone's like, "Hey, would you like some of this?" And you're like, "Yes, I would, but I'd like some more, please."
Yeah, I agree, and I feel like we're actually towards the end of that era. So I'm not sure what the next one is. I feel like maybe the next one is with technology moving so quickly these days with AI and all the CGI stuff, and maybe it's something like maybe not VR but AR, like augmented reality based. Because I mean, Apple's bringing out the new glasses. I don't know if it's something like that because I don't know what the next one is, but it's going to move very quickly. Like I mean, I don't know if I'm a futurist, right? So I predict technology trends. So it's one of my hobbies. So
Wow.
this is, I don't know. I feel like that's where it's going because I don't know if I should say this, but I was actually working on something. I can't even tell you the concept because I have to make you sign an NDA. But like the office got word that I was doing this, and they sent someone to come check it out in the warehouse that we were testing out the technology.
Yep.
That's as much as I can say about that. So I know they're interested in that stuff, and I know because I know when I left too, I pitched a bunch of stuff, but the technology wasn't advanced enough at the time to do these things. And I don't know. We'll see. I mean, this is just me like speculating, right? But that's how I see the next trend. Because think about this: during lockdowns, all those empty arena shows and the cinematic matches, I feel like they almost touched on that. But like, if sprinkle in some AR stuff. I mean, it's hard to imagine right now, but I don't know. I feel like that's the way we're going. We'll see.
I hope we get a hologram of like Macho Man versus Eddie Guerrero at some point in the future somehow, because then these are fantasy matches.
We have
right.
technology.
Exactly. If you can have Tupac and Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley show up on a stage and sing a new song, well, why can't we do the same thing with wrestling?
Exactly. And, oh, man, I wish I could tell you this idea I had. Like, I just don't.
I understand. I don't want you to lose millions of dollars. I know it's great. Everyone has great ideas, but I don't want you to spoil your money. I don't want your wallet to become depleted because you told me something you weren't supposed to say.
Well, if we pull off this thing that I think we can, then we'll do another podcast, and then we can reference that.
Hey, I'm from Boston. We have Boston Dynamics. We have those damn scary ass dog looking robots that are doing everything. And when you look at that, you remind yourself of the movie, I believe it's Up, where everyone's fat in the future. We're all in the sky and robots are doing everything for us. I hope I don't get fat and huge in the future, but right now I'm doing pretty well. Though I imagine what the future is: robot John Cena versus robot Rock versus robot Stone Cold. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm excited for what you got cooking in your brain right now. I don't know what's happening next, but it makes me excited for the future of wrestling. I like how you kind of said we're at the tail end of this internet boom. And the next step is, I don't know, a lot of these organizations, for instance, like MLW or Progress, they're looking for a national syndication because that's still validation on the ad sales revenue. Where anyone, my daughter who's 6 years old, could have a YouTube channel and get 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of content and then make money. But how do you make ad revenue based on companies like a Pepsi or a Doritos or Honda? Well, usually national syndication is how you do this. So maybe that's the next step for these small companies, but I'm not sure. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I mean, with all these streaming sites like Twitch and like you just said, YouTube, and like eventually all these things are going to go onto the blockchain, so you can monetize it yourself.
Yep.
It's hard to put these technologies. Hey, technologies. Sorry, my dogs are going crazy.
I'm like, who are you yelling at? Is someone breaking in?
My little dogs are funny. They keep me on my toes every day.
Good. Someone's got to, it seems,
Yeah,
Cape Town werewolf with 2 dogs. That's a children's story right there waiting to be written.